Hello everyone, and welcome to my video about the future of the Elder Scrolls series. This video will contain theories and predictions about when and where the next Elder Scrolls game will take place. Before I get started, I just want to say I am well aware that the Elder Scrolls 6 is far away from reality. Bethesda has said on multiple occasions that the game isn't even in development yet, due to other projects they want to get done with. We now know, thanks to their E3 conference, that those projects were and are Fallout 76 and Starfield. Fallout 76 is released as of recording this, and Starfield we can expect within the next few years, especially with their studio expansions. Another thing I want to mention is that I am no way a lore master. My knowledge of Elder Scrolls lore is average at best, and this video is simply a thing I wanted to do for the fun of it. Feel free to criticize any points I make, or you feel are misinformed, or don't have any valid reasoning behind it. Now, without further ado, please enjoy this video. So where might the next Elder Scrolls game take place? To answer this question, let's first determine where we know it can't or most likely will not take place, starting with where it has already been. Morrowind, Cyrodiil, and Skyrim. I know that arenas spanned across all of Tamriel and Daggerfall around Hammerfell and High Rock, but since those games are so old, didn't really have neither the graphics or the technology to actually flesh out those giant land masses, I won't take these games into consideration when determining where the next game might take place. Elder Scrolls Online is also an oddball because it also spans across all of Tamriel, but first, it wasn't actually developed by Bethesda Game Studios, and second, it is set 1,000 years before the events of Skyrim and about 800 years before any of the other games, which makes it easy for it to tell its own story without disrupting what Bethesda Game Studios is trying to make. With that out of the way, the three most recent titles from the Bethesda Game Studios have all had a single province centered around the game, that being the island of Vvardenfell, the Imperial Province of Cyrodiil, and of course Skyrim. Being that these games have had stories focusing on these three provinces, it leads me to believe, and many others, that Bethesda wouldn't take a stab at recreating them. It would be both somewhat repetitive, and since they would already have established land and landscapes that the player might have explored before. Also, any islands and continents outside of Tamriel also unlikely places for us to go, since the Elder Scrolls so far, spin-offs and main games have taken place in Tamriel. It wouldn't feel right to suddenly take place outside of Tamriel, where no stories have really been told and are quite frankly surrounded in mystery. We know minor things about the other continent, which are only accounts from explorers and books and such. Now, with the question of where the next Elder Scrolls will not take place, we can finally answer the initial question. Where might the next Elder Scrolls game actually take place? With dialogue from NPCs and general patterns in Bethesda's storytelling of recently released games, I believe the next Elder Scrolls game will be set in Hammerfell. Why do I think this? Well, I thought about it first off because I watched a lot of Elder Scrolls content, whether that is walkthroughs, theory crafting, or just lore in general. I saw some other people thinking this as well. It's such a rich landscape, home to the Red Guard, skilled warriors who are currently in high tensions with the Aldmeri Dominion, but more on that in a bit. I also came up with this idea from a quest in Fallout 3. In Rivet City, the Replicated Man is a quest where you are tasked to identify a synth. The next Fallout game had a huge presence of synths, and they had an integral part of the main story. Now, why do I mention this quest in Fallout 3? Well, if you look at it, Bethesda's Fallout series and Elder Scrolls have become very similar in playstyle, at least from Oblivion and onwards. So who's to say they don't borrow from each other's storytelling as well? In Skyrim, there's a quest that revolves around finding a Redguard woman that has allegedly done some bad stuff. The quest starts off at the main gate of Whiterun, where a pair of Alik'r warriors are being told by a guard to leave, since they're unable to enter the city without getting in trouble. They ask for your assistance in finding this woman, Sadia. The Redguard woman that you are asked to find says that she actively spoke out against the Thalmor and is being prosecuted for that reason. The Alik'r warriors that you meet are assassins, she says. She asks you to go kill the assassins so that she can live without fear of death. She mentions that one of their members was captured and taken to the Dragon's Reach dungeon. He gives you the information you need, but not before you pay off his fine first. Once you figure out where Alik'r warriors are located, you can choose to speak with their leader, who tells you that Sadia didn't speak out against the Thalmor, she actually helped them. She sold out to the Thalmor and aided them in winning the Battle of Tanith, betraying the Great Houses. There is no actual evidence of who is telling the truth, though, but I'm inclined to believe the Alik'r simply because of the hatred that is for the Thalmor in Hammerfell. The lone woman fleeing for speaking out against the Thermalort doesn't sound like a thing that would happen in such a place. If you're not caught up on your Elder Scrolls lore, the Aldmeri Dominion is a faction that has been causing quite a stir in Tamriel for quite a while. They are now the dominant force of Tamriel, seeking control of everything and banning certain things with the power of the White Gold Concordant, most notably the worship of Talos, a very present god in Nordic culture. If we then take the Alkir soldiers' dialogue into consideration, might it be some foreshadowing for the Elder Scrolls 6? Fighting the Second Great War in Hammerfell would be a very interesting premise for an Elder Scrolls game, at least in my opinion. It might not even be that far from when Skyrim is taking place, as tensions are incredibly high, especially in Hammerfell due to their disliking of the Aldmeri Dominion, and with the Skyrim Civil War over with, depending on who won in canon, the Aldmeri Dominion can focus their efforts on Hammerfell. This of course would be a completely different type of story from a typical Elder Scrolls games. Just fighting a war with no real magical elements would be kind of boring and out of character, but it doesn't have to be like that. The Thalmor might uncover some ancient evil, and we adventurers are perhaps tasked to stop it, who might even turn out to be some champion of the gods or something along those lines. Now that I think about it, Oblivion, you yourself weren't any type of real sort of legend or prophet or some foreseen force. You were really just a guy who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But then in the DLCs later, you turn into, well, it's hinted that the hero of Kvatch turns into Sheogorath, so there might be that. I personally think that it would suck if all we heard about the Second Great War was just in a book or from veterans. I also feel like it would be a complete waste of storytelling for Bethesda just to gloss over something that was an integral part of Skyrim. Now, say what you want about Bethesda, but the route they have taken in recent years dumbing down the games, but I don't think they would build up this high tension all around Tamriel and just leave it to be for the storybooks. The fan project Beyond Skyrim is even teasing something like the Second Great War in their telling of what's going on around Tamriel. Beyond Skyrim is an incredibly ambitious mod project by the Elder Scrolls fans, but aims to create all of Tamriel in the Skyrim engine. Right now, though, there's only one thing they have released, and that is Beyond Skyrim Bruma. But with the release of that, you can see why this project takes so long. They put an incredible amount of detail into everything in the county, including voice acting, the environment, and the creatures. I would highly recommend any playthrough to have this mod in their mod list. This is the part of the video where I talk about the announcement trailer for the Elder Scrolls 6. Of course, we technically don't know anything about it, but that doesn't mean we can't speculate. I would like to clarify something before I continue, though. I've had the script in my Google Docs for over a year. Almost 2 years now. But I didn't finish it because I was going in some very important life things, mainly taking a foreign exchange trip to America for 10 months. It was while I was in America that Elder Scrolls 6 was announced, and I had a resurgence to continue the script. I of course watched a bunch of speculation videos regarding the trailer, and most common place that people seem to think that Elder Scrolls 6 will take place is of course Hammerfell. An Elder Scrolls YouTuber by the name Camelworks made a great analysis on this with solid evidence supporting his claims, referencing things found in lore books around some Elder Scrolls games and that have happened in the other games. He practically confirmed Hammerfell to be the next setting. You should definitely check it out. Before I end this video, I want to make some final remarks about some information that I neglected to mention in the video you just saw. Mainly two things. The trademark that Bethesda made, which was Redfall, which is pretty obvious what that is. It's most likely the name of what is going to be the Elder Scrolls 6. I think this was actually trademarked pretty far back, but Redfall obviously refers to the Red Guards, the race from Hammerfell, and Hammerfell, or Hammerfall, whatever you want to call it, whatever. It is a pretty obvious allusion to where the next game is gonna be set. It's not as obvious as, say, Morrowind or Skyrim, but, you know, it's in the same vein. Another thing is the very recent release from when I'm recording this, which is the mobile game, Elder Scrolls mobile game that Bethesda released, which is Blades. Now, this, like most of the information in this video, it's not really concrete, but they are again focusing on this great war that happened that we don't actually get to see or fight in as players, but we hear about it. Now, Blades is almost immediately set immediately after the First Great War and the disbanding of the Blades. The character that you are playing is a former Blade, but they've managed to escape before the Thalmor had the chance of cutting off your head. So again, they're focusing on this great war that has happened while alluding perhaps to a thing that is going to happen in the future, which I'm suggesting in this video, of course, is the Second Great War, which is most likely going to take place in Hammerfell. Now, I'm saying the Second Great War. We don't actually know if it is the Second Great War that we're going to be fighting in, but you know, it's going to be a clash between the Thalmor and another faction. It's not going to be the Empire this time, of course, because they're not really a thing anymore. It's a puppet empire, as the people of Skyrim, describe it as. So, just some final remarks before I end this video.
That brings me to the end of this analysis on the premise and location of The Elder Scrolls 6. If you're still interested in finding out more about where The Elder Scrolls 6 will take place, I will link a couple of channels and specific videos in the description for you to check out. If you like this video and would perhaps like to see more of this from me, please leave feedback in the comments or reach out to me on my social media accounts. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. Your time is greatly appreciated.